Hi everybody, I'm Zilla Blitz and welcome to upcoming Wargames, the holiday edition #1. In this series, we take a look at various tabletop wargames in various states of production from publishers across the planet. Because it is the holiday edition, we're also going to be looking at various sales being run by publishers across the planet, as there are a number of places offering some fantastic deals. That leads us to our first item, which is Noble Knight Games, which is a sponsor of the channel, is currently running a Black Friday promotion for just a few days, where they offer free shipping minimums that are much reduced from their regular amounts. This is particularly appealing to people who are out of the United States, as international shipping can be very high. Now, it still takes a substantial order to qualify for those, but it is some pretty significant savings if you can put together a larger order if you're a non-US customer. And if you are a US customer, the minimums are lowered for free shipping as well. If you're not familiar with Noble Knight Games, they are a board games used and new, specializing in war games, tabletop role-playing supplies, as well as a huge range of other wargaming, board gaming supplies and games. Link is down below to them, and if you do use that link, thank you very much, as your purchase will help out the channel, and every little bit is greatly appreciated. Also related to Noble Knight Games, we are giving away a $50 store gift certificate to Noble Knight Games at the end of this video. You can see details in terms of how to enter into that drawing. Let's dig right in with our games, though, because that's what we want to talk about. Our first one in the newly released category, and I have it in hand, Wolfpack from GMT Games. My P500 order arrived about a week or so ago, and so I think they've completed the P500 shipping for this one. This is a game that I've long been curious about, and I've wanted to mention on the channel for a while. It is a solo 1 to 4 player, and if you're playing with more than one player, it's a solo cooperative experience where you lead a small flotilla of U-boats throughout the North Atlantic in a campaign spanning an arc of the earlier part of the U-boat campaign, so up until I think somewhere in 1943. This is a game I've long wanted to mention on the channel, but I had a little bit of hesitancy because I saw an early playtest a long time ago, and I wondered if it was really a little bit too detailed for my liking. So I kind of wanted to play it first. I'm happy to say that I got a chance to play a teach and play by Mike Berticelli, the designer, at SD HistCon in early November, where he led a group of 4 of us through a full patrol. I really enjoyed it. There's a lot of differences between this and the existing games like The Hunters and Silent Victory, Raiders of the Deep, which we're featuring on the channel. And if you know the channel, you know I really, really like those games. This is a different beast. This is a game that says, let's take that individual patrol experience and make a full game of that, and then layer a campaign experience on top of that. So instead of a patrol taking like 10, 15, 20 minutes, a full patrol in this game is about 2 to 3 hours, where you're going to be making a lot of decisions that's going to influence the outcome of the game. A number of people who've watched the other U-boat simulation, submarine simulation episodes that we have on the channel will say like, well, I really like the idea of Hunters, but I don't really feel like I'm doing all that much. This is a game where you're doing everything. There's a lot of determination as to which angle you're going to attack the convoy from, depth, rising, everything matters, and you're going to be making a lot of decisions as you guide this small flotilla of U-boats throughout a campaign. Now, there is a single patrol experience, which is the game in itself. Then there is a short campaign of 3 patrols, medium campaign of 9 patrols, and the full campaign of 18 patrols, which, doing the math, is probably going to take you about 40 to 60 hours or so to play through that full campaign. But again, you want to think the game experience is that individual patrol. It's meaty, it's rewarding, it's rich. It gives you lots of decisions, and there is a lot of tension and fun involved with the gameplay. So that's Wolfpack from GMT Games, available on their website, and P500 is just completed now. Let's shift over now to a trio of games available from Worthington Publishing that have just finished their crowdfunding campaigns. And as I'm creating this, they're still available on kind of a late pledge pre-order type of system, with some discounts for ordering more than one game. If you may recall, earlier in the year, we took a look at Pacific War 1942 and War of 1812 Solitaire. These are 2 travel-size games, Solitaire games, that allow you to play an entire campaign or entire game in about 15 minutes to a half an hour. These 3 games, I think, fit into that family. In particular, Europe at War 1940, is the sister game, if you would, to Pacific War 1942. And the French and Indian War game here is the sister game to War of 1812 Solitaire. Shogun Solitaire, which is the third one right here beside my head, is kind of its own little beast. And let's just take a quick, brief look at all three of these games. Same type of idea, though. Small package, travel games that you can bring with you, play Solitaire in 15 minutes to a half an hour. And of course, you can play these co-op too. One game does allow you to play from both sides too, but let's jump in and take a look at each one of them in and of itself. First up, let's take a look at Shogun Solitaire, which your goal is to lead a coalition of 4 clans to unite feudal Japan. This one is very different than the other games in the series. As we can see, these cards placed here beside it, it's card-based play where you're going to be taking turns to play a card as the opponent. The automatic is going to be playing some cards against you. We can see this play area in here, and the rules as well. If we click up here, we can take a look at the rules. Very different than the other games in the series in terms of what you're trying to do. So it takes this theme of War of 1812 Solitaire and Pacific War 1942, kind of turns it on its head with card-based play instead of moving tokens and pieces on a map. Looks fascinating. I really like the artwork on these cards too. So it looks like a great addition to the series. I'm very curious to see how this one plays as compared to the other games in the series. Let's go back now, however, and take a look at Europe at War 1940. If we look here and you're familiar with the other games, you can see there's a very similar type of style. You're going to have a turn track down the bottom that we can see, and then a map that you're going to be moving Axis forces on. This one, you take charge of the Axis forces in 1942 and fight the first 18 months of World War II. Similar gameplay, but with some different and unique mechanics to it compared to the other games in the series. Lastly, sister game to War of 1812 Solitaire is the French and Indian War Solitaire. Allows the player to command the French or British side in the war that decides the fate of North America. Similar play, again, with a limited number of kind of changes to the system, but we can see this map-type style play. You're going to be leading different forces, trying to clear and reach different objectives. Some beautiful tokens and some gameplay here. This is a fun series, and I like, too, how they... it looks like with these games, too, they're differentiating a little bit with the gameplay, keeping something that looks similar, but adding a different thematic concept as well as some slight changes to gameplay to make each game a little bit unique. So if you did like those other 2 games, you might be interested in checking out these 3 games available in late pledge pre-order system on this Kickstarter page, and I'll put a link down below. Sticking with Worthington Publishing and sticking with the concept of a game that's just gone past its regular crowdfunding period on Kickstarter and is available through late pledge and through a kind of pre-order stage from the Kickstarter website is The Epic Battle of Alicia from Worthington Publishing. This one is a reimagining of the 1976 Avalon Hill Caesar, The Epic Battle of Alicia. This is a hex encounters game at a rather grand scale. The map here states 3 foot by 4 foot, and as we look at this image over my head here off to the side, we can see hex encounters game with a really robust counter set. It's going to have, here's a full map look. Here's a full view at the map. So a rather large map that we can see here. This one looks really cool. And if we dig in and take a quick look at the final rules here, I'm sure these are going to be laid out differently. This is kind of the pre-production rule set here. Good bit of text here, but it looks like it's going to be about 11 pages here before it gets laid out. So probably looking at twice that once it's got all its graphics and stuff like that in here. So I'm guessing kind of a medium light complexity. We've got stacking, battle rages, melee. There's a shock phase. So it looks like kind of takes this tactical combat from this epic battle going back into ancient times and reimagines it in a new format with updated graphics. We can see down here, the counter set looks really cool. Gallic units and the Romans. Very cool and available from the Kickstarter page from Worthington Publishing. Continuing on with our look at games that have just finished up their major crowdfunding campaign, but are still available for a brief time on pre-order, late pledge types of things. We have Euro Wargames, not a game, but a book about wargaming, published by Nuts Publishing. This is a collection of 17 articles, and I'm just going to read the snippet because this, I think, gives the best idea. These articles highlight the ongoing debates concerning the hobby, profession, and science of wargaming all over Europe. Euro Wargames provides fascinating, valuable insights into the vivid world of European wargaming. And just taking a look down here, we've got our editors, Jan Heinemann, Riccardo Massini, and Frederic Serval. And the list of articles is down here, of note, kind of authors that caught my attention. So basically, a bunch of 17 authors have written 17 different chapters in this book. We have Maurice Suckling, Brian Train, Volko Runke, and amongst other very notable authors in here. Some of the titles that caught my eye for chapters: Details versus Playability in Board Wargaming, What Makes a Wargame Historical, A Game of Data, a data science approach to wargaming, and 14 other fascinating reads that should be in this book. So available now on late pledge, again, published by Nuts Publishing. This looks like a fascinating read for anyone who likes to read and likes to play board games, war games. Staying in that category, another game that has just finished its general crowdfunding and is available for a brief time for late pledge and pre-orders, Steve Jackson's One Page Bulge by Lombardi Studios. This game had a pledge funding goal of $2,000, went to $37,000, so definitely on its way to being a reality. This game, I'm going to pull down here and show the image that's in here. It's a reimagining of the 1970 Steve Jackson game, One Page Bulge. They've added a bunch of features to it, completely redesigned it. So we can see here are some of the newly redesigned components. I don't see an image of the map here, but they've also added some cards to the game. It's a re-envisioning again of this older game from 1970, one of Steve Jackson's games. Now, I've never seen, or I don't remember seeing or playing this one. It slipped by my radar. I know some of these old Steve Jackson games, and I still have like Ogre and Melee and some of those. Really fun games, but for whatever reason, I don't remember this one. So this, again, available on late order from Lombardi Games. One Page Bulge had a very successful crowdfunding campaign game. If you want to check it out, link is down below. Next up, yet another game in the late pledge category, Herman Luttman's The Rock of Chickamauga from Flying Pig Games. This game blew through its Kickstarter goal, which was $20,000, over $100,000 raised for this one, which is a huge amount for a tabletop board war game. Why, might you ask? Well, the only thing to say is it's the second game in the Black Swan system. The first game, of course, being A Most Fearful Sacrifice, which was, I think, one of the most iconic war games published in the last couple of years. Just the scope, the scale, the scenarios, the attention to detail, the fun of gameplay, how beautiful of a game system it is. Rock of Chickamauga is trying, if it lives up to those expectations, which I've got for it, it should be yet another phenomenal addition to the series. This, of course, covers the Battle of Chickamauga in September 1863 in the U.S. Civil War. We can see the box here. The one difference, right? Rick Barber, who sadly passed away, was one of the most accomplished map designers in board wargaming. This game, if we look at it, the map style is in his style. It is not, of course, his artwork, as he is sadly no longer with us. But looking at these maps, these look outstanding. Counter artwork very much the same way. Looks like it's going to be just a fantastic addition to the series. Excited to see this series growing now. There's the second game and a couple of expansions for the first one. So Black Swan really kind of making a move in the U.S. Civil War market. And this one looks like yet another spectacular. Let me just look at that. Ton of stuff in the box. Looks like another spectacular addition to the series. Really excited for this one. Available on late pledge on the Kickstarter link that I'll put in down below. Shifting now into our first game that's currently in crowdfunding, first Monday in October from Fort Circle Games and designed by Talia Rosen. Now, this game is a strategy game for 1 to 4 players. There's a full solo mode that covers the history of the U.S. Supreme Court. Now, before you jump away and say, I'm not at all interested in the U.S. Supreme Court, bear with me for just a second. So if you asked me a month ago, would you rather go to the dentist or play a game about the U.S. Supreme Court? I probably would pick the dentist if I'm being totally honest, right? I'm just not incredibly interested in U.S. legal history. But then when I was in San Diego for SD HistCon about a month ago, I got a chance to watch about 20 minutes of gameplay that 4 people were playing this game. And it immediately caught my attention with the subtlety of gameplay. So if you are a strategy gamer, I think the gameplay in this game is particularly sharp and crisp. And indeed, the designer, I forget the number exactly, but it was either 7 or 10 years that she has been working on this game. And every once in a while, you see a game that you can tell has every little detail thought through, and the attention to the interconnectedness of mechanics and the balance between certain aspects of gameplay and other aspects of gameplay. This is a game that's had an incredible amount of attention, love, and devotion put into it. it's just a fascinating look at how 4 players or 3 players or 2 players or even solo is going to kind of connect with this material. And what you're trying to do, really, I'll scroll down through this so you can see a little bit. You're trying to influence the legal history of the United States by kind of shaping the Supreme Court to kind of meet your philosophical needs. You're trying to retire justices, get certain justices to advance to the bench. You're trying to also shift the philosophical outlook of the court in a number of other ways. And you get kind of what you can see kind of in the center now is you get these philosophical goals that you're trying to shape the court towards. So you're kind of looking at the history of the Supreme Court as you're trying to mold and shape it to your kind of means and to your positions that you're holding in the game. So it's a fascinating strategy game in and of itself. And here's what I'll say too about the legal history element of it. What's captured my interest in the game isn't the legal history so much as the U.S. societal history that these landmark cases represent. So, basically you're kind of working through about 24 cases as you play through the game. And the 24 cases that are in the game reflect some incredible societal issues at that present time. You're looking at 200 years of U.S. history. And you might have one, for example, one that just blew me away was child labor. So there's this case going to the Supreme Court about the legality of child labor. And you just realize, wow, what kind of a place was the United States in to have this be an issue at the level of the Supreme Court? So it's that kind of lens on U.S. history that the game provides that's really captured my attention and interest, more so than the element of the legal history, which I think is, it's part of the game. If you're a lawyer, you're going to really love this game for sure. But I think also if you're a strategy gamer, you're really going to enjoy this game as well. So even though the topic might not capture your attention, I might encourage you to go check it out and just kind of see what you think of the gameplay, because I think it might surprise you with the elegance of gameplay and how much the topic actually does grab you. Now, I've had the game for a while. I've played about 5 hours. I've made a components look and a gameplay video. I'm also going to kind of make a longer impressions video on this, but that's kind of current thoughts on First Monday in October by Fort Circle Games and designed by Talia Rosen. Let's now shift to a new category, games that will be most likely coming to crowdfunding in the near future. 1811 Albuera from Tactical Workshop. And if you've been following these episodes for a while, you know that one of the goals is to bring to the channel a company that hasn't been featured on the channel yet, or that's new to me. Tactical Workshop is the first time that we've talked about one of their upcoming games, so welcome to the channel. Now, 1811 Albuera is a game in the Peninsula War where the French forces are trying to break the siege of Badajoz that was being conducted by the Allied British and Portuguese forces. One of the bloodiest battles of the Peninsula War, Napoleonic conflict, and kind of the epitome of Napoleonic warfare here. Now, there's a lot to say about this. First up, this is a second edition that is very much a very high degree of leveling up of the first edition. I'll show momentarily what things have been kind of reworked for the second edition. They're also very kind and sent along one of their pre-production copies. It does have a green top, so it's a little bit hard to see on the green screen here. But I am going to be trying to create a short overview video of this one to highlight the components, because the production value on this one is outstanding. It just came a few days ago, so I haven't had a chance to play it yet, but I've looked through it, and the map and the counters are really, really sharp here. As we can see, the map on the top left, very crisp and clean design, nice thick mounted map boards, 44 by 29-inch mounted maps. This is a big game. As one would expect with Napoleonic conflict, it's got a pretty significant rule set, 56 pages of rules. And if we take a look up here at the rule book, we can see there's event cards and leader cards in the game as well. Counters we can kind of get an idea for here in terms of just the elegance of artistic quality and the colorfulness of the counters, and a lot of attention to detail. Very much, sometimes you look at a game and you say this is a labor of love in terms of production and attention to detail and gameplay. This one looks like it's really good. Certainly deserving. I think wargaming is filled with a lot of fantastic games that sometimes just don't get enough light on them, and this one feels like it's in that category to me. It looks like a really, really good game that deserves a lot of attention. So I think if you like Napoleonic conflict, I'd recommend checking this one out. But these are kind of the components here. We've taken a look at those. I also want to just real quickly highlight the changes in the second edition because it's somewhat significant. A big list here. So a new mounted map, graphically improved for readability, new unit and leader counters, new markers such as nation-specific formation markers are now provided, new event cards, new player aid charts. Everything's new, right? It's complete reworking of the first edition. And looking over the quality of what I've got here, this is a very high quality game. So kudos to Tactical Workshop for putting together something of such a high quality, and all the kind of passion and enthusiasm that you can tell is really built into this game. I hope people will check it out. And with that in mind, I'll put a link down below to the campaign. It's up now on the preview page, is up now on GameFound. So if you want to keep track of this one, I would encourage you to go to the GameFound page, link down in the video description, and click on follow to follow their campaign so you can get updates and check it out as it goes forward. If you're at all inclined to check out Napoleonic Conflict, or you just like really good war games, I think this is one that you might be inclined to check out and follow along. You might like this when it comes forward. And again, I do hope to create, if I can, an overview video in the next month or so, kind of highlighting the quality of this production. 1811 Albuera, second edition from Tactical Workshop. Staying within the category of games coming to crowdfunding and really release in 2025, from Compass Games, Gladiators, Blood and Glory, designed by Gregory Smith. Now, this is the same Gregory Smith of the Hunters and Silent Victory and the Solitaire systems like American Tank Ace. So kind of a connoisseur here of creating games, the Solitaire system style of games. Gladiators for Blood and Glory is pushing a lot of my buttons. I want to kind of take a look here at some. Actually, let's go look at the description down here first. So we've got a 2-player Solitaire game that places you in charge of running a ludus, a Roman gladiator training school. Your gladiators are basically going to be fighting and gaining experience. Let's go up now and take a look at some pictures here. Pop this up. So here's our cover, and then we can work over here. This is the arena. So very quick, short battles. You're going to be using its card-based tactical combat as these fighters are going to go into the arena and try to survive. They're going to be gaining experience and adding skills that are going to hopefully be able to survive longer and eventually win their freedom. You've got aspects of earning funds to build up. Here we're looking at some of the cards for tactical combat, looking for funds to build up your ludus and to kind of improve its facilities and make things better. Just looks like a really fun system for handling gladiator combat in the Roman era and bringing it to a Solitaire kind of, again, one of these games where, a battle is going to lead. It's going to have a dynamic campaign. Your fighters are going to die, get wounded, progress, maybe eventually winning their freedom. It looks like just a fascinating look. Here's all the counters now. A fascinating look at gladiator combat in the Roman era. I know there's been a number of games that have kind of focused on this theme. This one, given the design pedigree of Gregory Smith, really makes me feel like this is one that we want to keep our eyes on here. So I'm really excited about this one, Gladiator, Blood and Glory, upcoming next year from Compass Games. Our next game in the upcoming games category is a game that's just been added to GMT Games' P500 system, Microverse, designed by Sam London. Now, there's a story behind this game for me. I had a game, I was supposed to play Red Dust Rebellion at SD HistCon, and the person that was going to be running the beginning game got the flu and couldn't do it. So I had this opening for a couple hours in the game, and I saw some people playing this kind of a prototype version of the game at SD HistCon, and I spoke with Sam and was able to jump into a game later that day, I think, and we had an 6-player game that we played. So this is it, and it's really fun. Like, this is huge thumbs up for me. It's a 4X space exploration game. So by 4X, it's the expand, explore, exploit, exterminate type of game where you're trying to build up your empire, that plays with as many as 8 people. And it's also got a solitaire mode too. So it's going to plays with as many as 8 people in about an hour to an hour and a half or so. So a very fast playing game that's going to have 21 different playable factions in it. So, and here we can see these are prototype counters and prototype art that we're looking at, both in this and then in some pictures I'm showing here too. But build, colonize, explore, mobilize. I'm going to have 21 different factions with many more on the way. So there's designed already. This is a game I think Sam mentioned again, I forget the number of years, 7, 8, 10 years or so that he's been working and refining and tweaking this game, finally coming to the light of day. And as you go and you expand, you're flipping over these different planets to see what's underneath them. And the game is so intriguing because you've got a number of different ways you can win the game. So you can get an expanse victory, an empire victory, a conquest victory, or transcendence, which is uncovering and holding onto these monoliths that you can uncover along the way. It plays fast. Turns are super fast. It's easy to jump into, easy to understand. We played with 6 people and we were probably 15, 20 minutes into it. And I think everybody had a pretty good idea on what they were trying to do and things. It's also kind of calibrated for complexity because the factions that you can add more complexity and nuance to the game, as well as a ton of replayability. So you can play kind of with some of the simpler to understand factions early on until you get your sense for it, and then add in more complex and more unique factions as you play forward. And how all those factions interconnect with each other is going, because each one's going to have strengths and weaknesses, and how one strength will match up with other one weakness. It's a fascinating game that plays really fast, that's super accessible and a lot of fun. And you could probably get 2-3 games in easy in an evening with a group of 4 to 6 people. Really fun game, strongly recommended, huge thumbs up. Microverse designed by Sam London and newly added to GMT Games P500 system. It's really, really good. Our last upcoming game to look at is a game in development from Legion Wargames, Operation Rolling Thunder, designed by Bertrand Guillot-Quéredin. I'm sure I butchered that. I'm sorry about the pronunciation there. But Operation Rolling Thunder is a simulation game that simulates the U.S. and Air Force and Navy bombing campaign in 1965 to 1968 over North Vietnam. And the core objective here, again, solitaire or cooperative level game, just kind of looking at the description, the core objective is to inflict enough damage to compel North Vietnam to engage in peace negotiations by hitting and kind of reducing the efficiency of the Ho Chi Minh Trail, the logistics network that supplied their forces in the south of the country. So it's a campaign game divided up into seasons. And this, again, is kind of it looks like kind of a slash operational tactical level. And if we look here at our game details, we can see a few elements of gameplay. It's a counter set, and then there's a set of wooden cubes that are used, looks like, for kind of keeping track of levels, not for the actual counters themselves, because we do have, behind my head, you can see counters for squadrons, Navy squadrons, Air Force squadrons, some B-52s, Navy objectives, damaged bridges, skilled pilots, just kind of going through these turn, season, White House directives, because that was a big element of the bombing campaign in World War and the Vietnam War as well. But then we get kind of take a look at the graphics here. We can see a number of areas that are going to be the targets of bombing strikes by the U.S., number of kind of areas around the map where you're tracking various levels of different components. Looks like a really fun and deep and engaging solitaire campaign, looking at this bombing campaign in the Vietnam War. Here is I should also mention too, these are playtest graphics. These are not final components, so these are prototype components, as they we can see on some of the printing there, but just calling attention to that. But here's a game in action, so we can see a lot of things going on. We've got U.S. bombing strikes coming in and around the northern part of the country, and a lot of elements here tracking gameplay off on both sides. Then further down here, we can see a close-up, some more tracking elements here. Armed recon coming in terms of those planes on the left. A lot of different plane types, skilled pilots, and card play as well, influencing, it looks like, kind of incrementing the strength of certain actions or providing the option to do certain actions too. All-weather aircrafts, Iron Hand, more sorties, Bolorus, Misty Fast, FACs. So just a lot of kind of attention to historic detail. It looks like it's going to be a really fun game. And taking a little bit more of a look at this is some playtest graphics that have been sent to me here. We're kind of looking at some of the aircraft. I love the counter detail on these. These look really sharp. It looks like it's going to be, and again, playtest, right? Still, but the counters are looking really, really good here. And I think this is going to be it looks like it's going to be a fantastic exploration of this topic. Here's another look at the map in action. So we can see a card being placed for increased armed recon. We've got strikes in there, skilled pilots on those. Looks pretty impressive. I think this looks like another one of these games that falls into that, as do so many war games, right? Labors of love, as you're looking at how this is carried out. Reminds me a little bit of 20th Air Force and 8th Air Force, the two games by Fortress Games, of which 8th Air Force will be coming to the channel. I'm so far behind on that one. I apologize for that. But coming to the channel at some point soon. It's got to. But to get back to our point at hand, Operation Rolling Thunder from Legion Wargames. It's available on their CPO price. It's kind of like their pre-order system. And when a game reaches a certain number of pre-orders, they trigger it over at a significant discount over the base price, as is often the case with pre-order systems. But I'll put a link down below if you want to check it out. Looks like a very intriguing addition to the solitaire war game category. That takes us to the end of the upcoming games portion of it. But because this is one of the holiday editions, I want to mention some ongoing sales at various wargaming and wargaming related companies around the planet. We've already talked about the Noble Knights sale, which is one of the sponsors and has discounted shipping and international shipping rates. But I want to mention another one that's going on. It looks like it might be going on for just a few more hours by the time I make this video and is published. It's the Cube for Me Black Friday sale, 20% off of your entire order with the code BLACKCUBE at the top. If you're not familiar with Cube for Me, they make storage trays for Wargames. These trays are very durable, extraordinarily efficient in terms of fitting tons of counters into a particular game. And then they make custom sets. Now, again, another caveat, they are also a channel sponsor. So some of these kits that we're looking at now are kits that I've made for them, like the 1812 one, the 1793, the 1776 one for Avalon Hill. These are kits that I've made for them. But the reason why I like them, and I'm going to kind of take a look here at the Men of Iron tri-pack is kind of an example. So this is a recent kit that I put together for them. And you can see, this has thousands of counters in this game, and it fits in 3.5 trays, and everything fits back in the box nice and snug. The amount of counters you can fit in each compartment and still access really easily is just remarkable. And the thing about these too is that a kit is made specifically for the game. So this kit here on the Men of Iron page will get you all of the trays in this picture, which is exactly what you need to create the storage solution that you see here. And when I go in and make these, I'll show another picture here. I organize them by setup or by layout or by scenario. In this case, it's by nationality and units that kind of correspond with scenarios. But it makes it really easy because you can get the trays, look at this image, and then just put all the counters in exactly the way they are here. Of course, you're free to vary it if you want to. However, if there isn't a set for a game you want, they also have here a universal set with 12 trays and some other universal set options as well. Here you get 12 trays for $49. And they come. Now, this is a Polish company. Don't let that steer you off. The shipping is really fast and it's not very expensive because these are very, very light as would be expected. But I really like, I was not a fan of storage solutions until I started using these and realized how much time they save on setup in particular and takedown and organization, especially some of them. You have a nice tray for all of the counters, the markers that you'll be using. So you're just picking them in and out. It saves so much time on games with anywhere from a moderate to a high level of complexity in its setup. So I'm a big fan of these. Cube for Me, having a sale now, 20% off until the 29th. Maybe it'll go a little bit longer. Not quite sure, but you might want to check them out. This is a big one. Compass Games is having their annual holiday sale right now. Now, this one goes on for quite a while. It goes until the end of January. So theoretically, there isn't an urgency to get these. However, games do sell out. So if there's something you really want, you might want to move on it quickly. It's pretty much everything in their catalog that's available at substantial discounts over the regular price. So what I thought I would do right now is I'm just going to kind of walk through their available games and point out ones that I might think would be good choices in this. So just going to kind of take a couple of minutes to go through this. Storm of Steel on sale for $72. The new Solitaire game about Stuka combat in World War II. Let me jump on. I'm going to highlight just a couple here so that Silent War 2.0, $60. That's a steal for so much gaming here. Napoleon's Eagles right above my head too. I had a chance to play the version 1 at SD HistCon last year. This is a really fun 2-player game. Really easy. $35. That's a fantastic deal. Interceptor Ace series. I've heard good things about this. American Tank Ace by Gregory Smith. Mentioned that earlier. Here's that one for $45. I'm driving on now. Let's go to the next page. And again, not saying anything that I'm not mentioning. I'm just trying to look for ones that pop out into me. Combat Volume 2. If you like Solitaire tactical combat, heard outstanding things about this one. Going down through here, Enemy Action Kharkov by John Butterfield, fantastic 2-player and Solitaire system in World War II. I want to mention the other game in that system as we get to it as well. Here's the first Napoleon's Eagles right above my head for $35. Fantastic deal for that one. Coming down through here, let's go to the next page. Combat, the Combat 2 is the one we're looking at before. This is Combat 1, the first game here. The Last Gamble, I'm going to be exploring this one more on the channel shortly. A really incredibly deep simulation of the Battle of the Bulge. Lots of historical elements in there. Down here, the Brotherhood and Unity is a fantastic game. $45 is an amazing price for that one. Zeppelin Raider is good. It's just the second edition now available, $59. Tinian, this is the Marianas Campaign, Volume 3. Really interesting World War II island combat series. $64 is a great deal for that one. There's just tons of stuff in here. I want to go on to our Death in the Trenches, World War I, another solid one. I want to pause for a second. A lot of people said, I've done the series on Raiders of the Deep, and we'll continue on with that series in the near future. A lot of people said they wanted to get the game, but they balked a little bit at the $99 price. It's part of the sale, $64. That's a really good deal for this game if you like the Solitaire submarine combat series in the vein of like the Hunters and Silent Victory and stuff like that. This one, of course, the World War I look at that campaign. Crusade and Revolution, fantastic production values. I've heard good things about this one. The lamps are going out. Likewise, another World War I. That's a good deal at $52. And then Enemy Action Ardennes, if you don't have it, it's usually $145. It's 3 games in one, right? It's a 2-player game. And then there's the German Solitaire and the US Solitaire for Battle of the Bulge. $95 is a ton of gameplay for a remarkable game in just a 2-player or a single game, again, designed by John Butterfield. There you go. A lot of stuff. Compass Sale. Lock and Load Publishing having their Christmas sale. It looks like it's going on for at least another month or so. So no great rush, except that things have a tendency probably to sell out. So if there's something you really want, probably wouldn't wait too much time on it. A lot of their deals seem to be focused on the Lock and Load Tactical Combat System. I'll just call out a few of those that you might be interested in. Enemy at the Gates and Valor the 13th are the expansions for the Russian modules. So you need the core modules like Heroes of the Motherland and Heroes of the Bitter Harvest, respectively. Actually, the other way. But they are 60% off. So if you have those core games and are looking for the expansions because you like those, that's a really good price to get those. I'm going to come back here to the Lock and Load Tactical, the manual, because I want to come down here to what's behind my head now, or right above it. Heroes of the Pacific is a fantastic module at 60% off, which is a good deal. But if you do get that one, it comes with the older rule set. So I would recommend getting the updated 5.1 rule set so you can play Heroes of the Pacific with the latest rules. And also, I would probably recommend these Lock and Load Tactical Player Aids for version 5.1, the latest edition of the rules, because I think the rules in Heroes of the Pacific is like 3 or something, and the rules have constantly been kind of improved over time. So 5.1 is the latest edition, and that's the one you'd want to get. So if you did get that one, it's a great introduction. Heroes of the Pacific, a great introduction to the system, but I would probably enhance it with those, and then you'll have the latest rule set. Another thing to do would be to get the game like Heroes of the Bitter Harvest that has this rule set in it, and then you wouldn't have to get the rule set independent of the game. Likewise, Heroes of the North Africa, a really good module in the series, again, on a really good price, $50 instead of over $100, so well off there. Heroes of the Falklands, Heroes of Defiance, another couple modules in there here at Lock and Load Tactical Combat System, which is, I think it's a good blend of complexity and playability in that system. It's one of my favorite tactical combat systems, so some really good deals in here in that system in their holiday sale, as well as a number of other things you might want to check out. So Lock and Load Publishing's Christmas sale going on for at least another month or until something sells out. Another sale that you might want to check out, and it probably won't last very much longer, is Decision Games Deal of the Month, November Deal of the Month, big game sale. 1 game, 20% off, 2 games, 25% off, 3 games, 30% off. They list the games that are involved with this sale here. Atlantic War, a classic one. I mean, these are expensive games that are very thoughtful decisions, of course. Atlantic War is a big one covering kind of a grand tactical simulation of the D-Day campaign and the expansion beyond that. But another one that I really wanted to call attention to is down here, right beside me that way, which is Axis Empires, the Ultimate Edition, the newly released just this year. I mean, it's over $300, right? So this is a big purchase, but at 20% off, that's a pretty good deal. This is kind of their global grand World War II Atlantic Pacific campaign game that has a lot of hypothetical options, just a remarkable game package and completely updated in this new Ultimate Edition. So those would be 2 I would point out in particular in their Deal of the Month sale. Last but not least, Worthington Publishing is having their 20th anniversary Christmas sale, up to 80% off some titles. Let's take a look and see what's in here. Most of their newer stuff is not on discount, but Lands of the Mesozoic is $20 off. That's a good deal. We come down further into some of their previous games. Bismarck Solitaire and Waterloo Solitaire, the boxed versions of the Solitaire system game, are $45 respectively, so roughly a little bit less than half off. As we come down in here, the tactical system, this is really good. Old Breed, South Pacific, Screaming Eagles, Ghost Panzer, all 50% off, a little bit less US for Old Breed South Pacific. So some nice deals in there. We get down into some of these Civil War games. These are real bargains. 7 Days Battles is like less than a third of the price. I mean, $25 for an $85 game. Antietam and Shiloh as well. If we scroll up here, another's that are one third of their regular price. 1944 Battle of the Bulge is fantastic. It's just a little bit over half price. This is a really fun, accessible hex encounters game that it's one of the games that I recommend to people if you're looking to get into hex encounters games. This is a really good one. And we come down here. Soviet Dawn, I don't know anything about this game other than I've seen a bunch of people playing and I've heard good things about it. Again, 1/3 of its regular price. And we come down and further, there are more until we get quickly to the sold out items that are already gone. But this is a pretty big sale with a lot of aggressive prices on some really good games. So Worthington Publishing, you might want to check out their sale. Well, it's still ongoing. We've covered a lot of ground, looked at some new and upcoming war games, and looked at some ongoing sales that we get to the end of the year here. We have one thing left to do, which is to give away our $50 store gift certificate to Noble Knight Games. Yes, easy question for you this month. We're approaching the end of the year, and although we have 1 month left to go, what has been your game, your historical war game of 2024 so far? Now, if you don't play historical games or war games, that's fine. Put your game of the year. That's good as well. But I'll leave you to define the criteria for 2024. Is it your best game that was released in 2024? That's okay. Or the best game that you played for the first time in 2024? That's okay too. Totally up to you. Post down below in the comments. Entries limited to 1 per person. I'll come back in about 2 weeks or so with a channel update, a monthly update, at which we'll pick the winner for that. So you want to watch that video too, so you can find out if you won or not. And with that, I think we've done everything we set out to accomplish in this episode. Thanks so much for spending roughly another half an hour together as we looked at upcoming games and sales in our wonderful hobby. We live in such an amazing time. I'm never more and more impressed with the creativity of games coming out and all of the options available to us. So we're truly blessed to be available to play these games in this time period. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. And whatever holidays you're celebrating, have a happy holiday as you go forward in the next month and as we head into 2025. Thanks for watching, everybody.